Hello, everyone. I am particularly excited about with this workshop because it's with Asim and we used to work together and I know he's awesome. And in this workshop, we will learn everything about how to effectively apply for remote jobs. Asim, thank you so much for being here and for sharing everything you know.
Well, Justine, thanks so much for having me. It's super exciting to be back on the We Work Remotely team, albeit for how brief a moment, just to share some thoughts and insights with regards to applying for remote jobs.
First of all, Asim is now the People Operations Lead at Sherpa. He will talk a bit more about that. Yeah, exactly. He will talk a bit more about that in the presentation. So yeah, I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready and we can start with the workshop.
Sweet, let's just jump into it.
Yay.
Give me a second while I share my screen here.
Yes, so I know this is a workshop everyone is interested in because I guess one of the most nerve-wracking parts of applying for jobs is just to apply, like just actually applying for them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can be pretty nerve-wracking to apply for a remote position, and there's a lot of anxiety when you apply for a remote position. Like, is this company going to get back to me? Is my application good enough? There's all these emotions that get involved. But what you need to understand is that it's emotion full of from both sides of the party. So not only is the applicant feeling those kind of emotions, also the recruiter, making sure that they hire the right person. Also the hiring manager, there's pressure on the hiring manager, even the teammates in the panel who might be a part of that interview. There's emotions kind of like flying all over the place. Yeah, it can be it's definitely nerve-wracking. So let's jump in. Quick intro. So as Justine mentioned, I am the People Operations Lead here at Sherpa. Currently responsible for three kind of primary things. The first one is obviously recruiting, and then building out an employee experience and engagement that keeps our folks from leaving, keeps them happy, and then developing and implementing any kind of people operation systems that we need to run our business. I've been in people operations and business operations for more than a decade, and I've been working remotely for over 5 years now. So I have a pretty good sense of what it's like to work in a remote first world. Super excited to have joined the Sherpa team. We're a Toronto-based tech startup focused in the travel and tourism industry. We're just about 70-ish people right now, and we're growing fast. Why we exist is to help travelers move freely around the world. What we do is we provide e-visas and travel restriction rules to help people understand how to navigate international travel in today's society.
Yeah, and like so difficult right now because of all the restrictions and everything, right?
Oh, it's a nightmare. So yeah, if you're traveling, be sure to check out our page. In this workshop, what we're hoping to accomplish are basically three things: to identify what you actually want in a remote position. And then point number two is like tailoring your application specifically. Point three, where exactly do I even go to look for remote positions that fit what I'm looking for? Where do they live? How do I find them? So let's do a quick exercise. Take a couple of minutes, write down the most important things for you in terms of what you're looking for in a remote position. I put a couple of points here as a kind of a guide, but some of the most common things that come up: compensation, benefits and perks, especially for developers. The tech stack, is the tech stack something that they're interested in and interested in learning? What's the team culture? What's the company culture? What's the work-life balance? Is it async fully? Is it not async? What kind of title is it? What kind of growth opportunities are there? And of course, remote. Is it remote first? Is it hybrid? What's the remote culture like?
Yeah,
so take a few minutes, pause the workshop, write things down, and put down what you're also willing to sacrifice.
We will be here waiting for you. Yeah, I think this is such an important part. And I guess when you are applying for a job, sometimes it's very easy to just like apply for, as you said before, just mass apply for everything, and you are not even, thinking about this value alignment, if you actually would want to work there. Because I know a lot of people sometimes are in a position where they just need a job. But this is also important. And if you get the job, like you want to make sure that you will enjoy working there.
You are 100% right. If you apply for a job just for the sake of having a job and end up getting that job, you will be miserable in that job, or you can be miserable. You might like it. It could be a fluke, but chances are you won't like it because you just accepted it just because you needed a job, which is not the best thing to do. What's the next thing you need to do? You should analyze yourself. Again, think of it as kind of like an exercise. Write down your strengths and your weaknesses. Write down your experiences, your actual lived experiences. like, what specific things have I accomplished in previous roles? What things am I good at? What education do I have? Do I have training regarding a specific thing, even if it's a coding bootcamp or something else? The two biggest ones, though, are the sellable skills and the transferable skills, right? So if you're in a role doing a specific set of activities or job functions, are any of those sellable to another company? Can you market yourself using those things? And are they transferable? Like in a very easy or super common transferable skill is communication. You could be an agile scrum master and you could be coalescing the teams in towards a specific goal, and you're herding the shepherd or herding the flock or whatever the statement is. But that is not only is it leadership, but it's also communication. How can you take that skill and apply it to another job? That's kind of what you have to think about. The last thing that you need to do is you need to be honest with yourself. Don't overstretch and overimagine your skill set, because you probably think of yourself, you're not applying to your mom. Your mom is not going to, say, oh, it's my son or it's my daughter, I'm going to give them, whatever. Like, be real. This is a real world. So be real with yourself. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is such an interesting thing you're saying about these sellable and transferable skills. I know a lot of people, especially after COVID and the pandemic and, all this great resignation and everything, they've looked into changing their careers, into maybe looking into other industries, stuff like that. So I guess sometimes for people like that, it's kind of hard to identify which skills they have and how those skills can apply to other industries or to other types of jobs, for example. So what would be like a strategy for some people to identify those skills and to recognize where they could be used?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, actually. A friend of mine, I was gonna share this story and actually share her resume, but I decided against sharing her resume for privacy purposes. But a friend of mine has a cleaning business, literally goes around to different houses and cleans them. And she has a couple of people working for her, and she asked me for help with her resume to update it and to kind of make it more modern, so that she can potentially look at something post the resignation. Her business is doing fine. She's just looking to expand. In her resume, she didn't highlight any of her transferable skills or her sellable skills. So I took it and I said, look, you're a small business owner. You take care of marketing. You take care of sales. You manage employees. You manage the finances of the company. You go out, you're doing all of these things. And not only that, you're also doing the actual work itself.
Yeah.
You're growing the business. Focus on that aspect instead of I go to houses and I clean them, which, it's a hard job to do by itself. But you're doing all of these other things that are definitely transferable. And any business that you go to has marketing, has sales, has finances. So those are your transferable skills. And then when you get them, you got to sell them, right? Like I implemented a system to track my clients. How are you actually tracking your clients? Like she's exploring CRMs. I'm like, well, that's huge. CRM is a sellable skill. Like many companies are looking for people with CRM experience. So use that and sell it.
Yeah, exactly. And also a lot of people ask us, I don't have remote experience. And I'm quoting this, I don't have remote experience. Like, where do I get that experience, or how do I get a remote job if I haven't worked remotely before? And it all comes down to these transferable skills, right?
It definitely has a lot to do with the transferable skills. And I think one thing that COVID taught us is really that even if you've never worked in a remote first company before, chances are during COVID you were working remotely. So therefore everyone really has remote experience. And you just highlight that, just say on your resume, like I was working for the bank or the government. And even though we're not a remote first company, during the 2 years of COVID, the past 2 years, we were completely offsite. We were completely remote. So yes, I did use Slack and I did use Microsoft Teams and Zoom and whatever else to, do my stuff. So everyone has it. But like you said, highlighting, the fact that you have that experience, but also highlighting the transferable skills is a definite asset and a definite thing that recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. Yeah. So let's talk about the resume. Resumes are a reflection of our personalities. So I grabbed this screenshot here. That's more of a design resume. It looks fancy. It's got a picture on it and so forth. Not every resume has to look exactly like this. But there are a couple of guidelines that we should follow when crafting our resume. The first one is that it needs to be relevant to the job that you're applying for. Like I said earlier, you need to have a specific resume for every single application that you want to do, or every single job that you want to apply for. It should be relevant in that there should be some kind of keyword matching between your resume and your skill set and the job that you're applying for. If you're applying for a marketing manager, you want to talk about marketing related things and show your marketing related results on your resume. Point two is being concise and succinct. Like recruiters have, I want to say thousands, maybe hundreds, but like really thousands of resumes to review, at any given time. They're not spending a long time on any resume, no matter the amount of work you put in. So you're putting in, like hours and hours of work behind this resume. Recruiters are going to give it a glance, maybe 10 to 15 seconds tops. And if it doesn't catch their eye in that first 10, 15 seconds, if things don't jump out at them, they will pass on it. It should be consistent. It should flow well and be easy to read. And there should be points that kind of jump out. The last thing that you should try and do is try and focus on the results instead of like listing a JD. JD's job descriptions is, what I was hired to do. I was hired to implement such and such a thing, or blah, 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 whatever. Focus is set on the results. I increased sales by X amount of percentage, or I reduced downtime by X amount of percentage. Those are the kind of things that recruiters and hiring managers want to see, the actual impact that you made in a position.
How long should a resume be? I know this, I know this might be, like it depends, but I feel like we see, no, it should just be one page. But there are some people that cannot just put everything they do in one page. Like, is it okay 2 pages, or like, what's your view being a recruiter?
Yeah, as long as the first page is really good, it doesn't matter how long it is. Because if the first 20, 30 seconds of a recruiter or hiring manager, like looking at that thing, they're only really looking at the first page. They're deciding there on the first page, do I need to spend more time going through this thing properly? Going through it with a fine tooth comb. And at that point, it doesn't really matter if it's 2 pages or even 5 or 7 pages. I've seen sometimes. What you don't want to do is you don't want to write a book. So if it's going to be 5 pages and it's very clean and easy to read, no problem, go ahead. If you're going to list out JD after JD in your resume, don't bother. That's a waste of time, and it's just going to add clutter. And probably something I'm going to mention later about is the ATS. It's probably going to get weeded out by the ATS.
And for example, what's your opinion on including a photo, like a headshot, or maybe using too many colors or too many fonts? Like, what would be your advice there?
That's absolutely a fantastic question, and actually it does have a direct impact on how an ATS parses information. I would say limit the amount of text to 2 different kinds, one for titles and one for plain text, or just like the actual meat of the resume. In terms of colors, try and stick to 2 at the most, if you have to. In terms of pictures, there is some debate. Now what a lot of ATSs are doing is starting to weed out like images. And this is especially important when it comes to diversity in recruiting. And some ATSs actually take out the name as well. So when a recruiter receives the application, they're seeing it without a picture, without a name, just plain text. So they're really basing their decision on is this person competent in this role, instead of, do I like this person's name, or do they look good in a picture?
I think this is where actually you can have the opportunity to get an interview or not. Like, this is the important part of it.
It's definitely the important part. And there are a couple of tricks I can mention to help kind of speed that up. Definitely have a template. There's nothing wrong with having a resume template for yourself. Like, for example, if you were going to apply to 3 different jobs, all within a very similar vertical, likely the about me is going to be exactly the same for every single one of them. There's no problem with that. Same thing with your, your links, your email, and so forth. The things that might change is like what you write in the work experience. Like the the titles may be the same, but like, what the things that you want to call out might be different company to company based on their core values or based on what they're actually looking for in the job description. So start off with a template and then go from there. That definitely helps. So let's talk about one of the tricks recruiters have up their sleeves to save an ungodly amount of time. It's called the ATS. If you're not familiar with an ATS, it is an application or an applicant tracking system. It allows recruiters to receive inbound applications for people who apply to their jobs on their website and do things with them automatically. So it basically takes the work out of managing resumes and applications and streamlines that all into one system, making it super easy to either disqualify applicants, push them through a pipeline, and so forth. A couple of super popular ones include Lever, Workable. I've listed a couple others there, but there are a lot more than that. And they all have algorithms behind it. The algorithms are used to do different things. You know, when you're looking at a resume, some strip out your name fully. Some provide the application in plain text. Some can take out a picture. Others actually rank applicants based on keyword matches. So literally in the ATS, you will see someone's name, like John Smith, 27% match, right? Mohammed Hamid, 56% match, literally based on the keyword matching. That's it, right? And now, as a recruiter, as a human, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to look. You know, anybody 50% or up is worth my time. Anybody 50% or lower, I'm not going to bother. So mass email all of them and just say thanks for your time. Not a good fit at this point. And then I'll focus my energies and my time at the top, because as a recruiter, I have quotas to hit. I have to, you know, hire a specific amount of people or a certain amount of people. My team is growing and so forth. There is no such thing as really beating an ATS. There is something about optimizing for an ATS, right? A couple of things that you should definitely do is use clear and concise language, because an ATS is a computer. It's like a machine, right? It's machine learning. So it's going to snip out language. And when the language is all over the place, it's going to not know what to do. So your resume is going to get parsed. It's going to look weird. So when a recruiter sees it, they're going to be like, oh, this person, I don't know what this is. What am I looking at? You know, as I mentioned previously, be consistent. Only have two kinds of, two styles of text, one for titles and one for body. Don't use tables, because that's just going to get jarbled up when it comes in through the ATS. You should only submit a resume, especially if it's into an ATS, in a PDF format. DocX is kind of okay, but I mean, the preferred is PDF. Unless it's otherwise stated, unless you have to do some specific thing in as part of the job application, just submit it in a PDF. And then one other thing that's kind of like common against all ATSs is that there is some keyword matching between the job description and your resume. So you definitely want to include some amounts of keywords, some amount of overlap between what you see in the job description and what you can actually do and deliver what you put in your resume.
Yeah. How do you identify these keywords in the job description? Like, how do you know which ones are like the ones you have to add to your resume or not?
That is an amazing question. And I think there is not really an easy way to do that I've seen. It's really just a matter of reading the job description, really understanding what are the nuggets, what are the takeaways. If you had to strip this down bare bones, what exactly are they looking for, right? What are the must-haves and what are the nice-to-haves for the job description? Like, for example, if you're applying to a technical position, there might be something in the tech stack that I would suggest as part of your keyword match. So if the job description, and I'm going to be biased here because we use TypeScript internally at Sherpa, if the job description for an engineer talks about TypeScript and Angular, you definitely want to include TypeScript and Angular on your CV or on your resume. So those are the kind of things that you need to look for, I think.
Yeah, and for example, I think you said something great about using clear and concise language. I think sometimes people tend to, you know, like instead of saying, I did customer support, it's like, well, you know, I talk with people every day and help them solve their problems and blah, blah, blah. And so maybe that won't be relevant for an ATS, and what the ATS will look for is customer support. So you really have to pay attention in those details, I guess.
100% yes, you are absolutely right.
I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions on ATS, and we've whenever we talk about this topic, we have people that are like, well, we're missing a lot, like companies are missing a lot of great candidates because they are just automating all this process. And in a sense, yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? But when you have 500 applications, it's also impossible to go through all of them. And I think you made a great point, for example, before when saying like, well, also these kind of systems are helping hire more diverse teams, for example, which is something a lot of people don't talk about. So how do you see this connection between using these automated systems and actually getting the talent you need for your company?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And I think there's a very strong push right now towards EDI. The company itself obviously needs to have EDI top of mind as a whole, as an initiative by itself. However, many of these applications now, or these ATSs, have within them the ability that when they're processing an application to do certain things. Like there are now like EDI components, add-ons that you could actually turn on within the ATS to help you do certain things. One particular one that comes to mind is that, at least within Lever, you could turn on EEO questions, equal employment opportunity questions. And in it, they ask a set of diversity questions that are optional, of course, but to ensure that you as a company are hiring a diverse range of talent, right? And then, of course, you now have things like, stripping out the names such that, the hiring squad, we'll call them, can't see your name, right? So it doesn't matter if your name is Samantha, Samuel, or Mohammed. You just see the actual, the meat of the resume. So you're not biased in any way, shape, or form, right? And there's a lot of research that has been done to indicate that as much as people talk about bias, they will be biased regardless. No matter who you are, no matter what you say, you will always be biased. So you look at a name, if it's from your culture, if you align with it, if it's easy to pronounce, easy to read, you're more likely to, allow it through. If you come across a name that's not from your culture, that might be hard to pronounce, you will just assume that the rest of the resume is that same thing, and you just kind of push it the other way. So taking that out, like ATS is taking that part of it out, is huge for many people, actually.
Yeah, totally. And I think in the contrary, right? Instead of taking opportunities from a lot of people, it's also giving opportunities to minorities and to people that maybe before didn't have the chance to go through some filters, and now they can actually go through that if they make their resume correctly.
Let's talk about a cover letter. Yeah, it's either.
How many cover letters have you written in your career, Asim?
That's a good question. Actually, quite a bit, to be honest. Especially when I was young and foolish and full of energy. Someone who helped train me up in talent acquisition kind of gave me an equation that looks similar to this in the bottom left here. So imagine that a company has 10 jobs posted on their careers page, right? They see roughly about 500 applicants per role, which is not super uncommon, especially in tech startups. And a recruiter has to spend 1.5 minutes to read a cover letter. You're looking at 125 hours of reading cover letters.
Oh my God.
That's just insane. No one has that kind of time, right? Yeah, exactly. So what instead you can have is you can have recruiters who might read part of it, recruiters who don't read anything of it. Sometimes hiring managers might read a cover letter, but really it depends. And the depends is huge here because number one, if the JD asks for a cover letter, obviously you should write a cover letter. Excuse me. If it wants to check how your writing is, that's probably what they're using to check. Now, for certain industries, cover letters become more important. So in the tech startup world, cover letters are not super important, and it's actually like kind of a barrier to entry. But in other verticals like government or education and so forth, cover letters are actually like super, super common, and like it's almost a must. Like your application will not be reviewed if it doesn't have a cover letter. So for this, I would say it depends. For tech specifically, I would say it's probably safe to avoid it, not do it.
Unless they ask for it.
Exactly. Unless specifically asked for it.
Yeah. I know, and something that has happened to me whenever I've applied for jobs is that it seems that the cover letter is more of a requisite. Like, I feel that sometimes they ask for it, even if they are not going to read, just to see if you will make like an effort to apply.
Yeah.
So
companies that do that, in my opinion, it's a little tricky because it's like I wouldn't I don't expect people to apply for a job unless they actually want the job, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why do I have to go above and beyond to prove myself when my competition is sitting right over there and they're not asking for any of these cover letters? They just want raw talent to come in and start doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I've even there is even a small movement now of people who are against resumes completely and want to rethink resumes themselves, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing, right? Like there's other ways to prove that I can do what I can do.
Yeah, and I feel especially now when there are like so many online tools where you can, like, I don't know, for example, if you're looking for marketing job, you can have a blog, and that, I mean, just reading how someone writes it will be more important than reading their whole experience, right? That's
100%. And same thing for
interesting.
developers in like Git, right? Like all of their code, their source code is what do they contribute to on GitHub?
Yeah, exactly. And so let's say that a company and a job description actually asks for a cover letter.
In general, if you do write a cover letter, address it to a specific person. Don't just say, dear company, dear hiring company, dear recruiter, or whatever. Highlight the values between yourself and the company. Why should the company care about you? What have you noticed that the company has done that stood out to you? And then highlight your most relevant skills in an easy to read kind of a way. The next thing we have to talk about is a LinkedIn profile. Every single recruiter, no matter how junior or senior they may be, will look at your LinkedIn profile if you apply for a job. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date, is professional looking, has recommendations, is active. All of those things are super critical for recruiters when they're looking at LinkedIn profiles. Yeah. If your LinkedIn profile does not match your resume, that is a huge red flag, because your resume is kind of like a secret. It's between you and your potential employer. So people that you've worked with can't see. You could say, I've done $10 million in sales last year, or I hit about 328% above quota. You could say that on a resume, because between you and the recruiter, or the company, how would they know? But to say that same thing on LinkedIn is now that external voice that's going to really vet what you're saying is true. So it's definitely becoming more and more important, and it's definitely something that you should look into updating if you're serious about getting a job.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we forget that it's there, especially if you're not super active. I know a lot of people are super active there, and they're part of communities, and they make updates and everything. Some of us, for example, myself, I'm not like super, like posting every day or anything. But at least I try to go there, like to my personal profile, like once a month, and like see that everything makes sense.
And I'm not saying you need to be active like every single day, but it should be up to date for sure.
Yeah, at least show that you are there, like that you're a real person that has a real profile and that has real connection. So
the next question is, where do remote jobs actually live? And like, where do you go to find them? How do you learn about them? So for us specifically here at Sherpa, we have in the middle here, we have Sherpa Jobs, which is our job board. We have many avenues to connect back to it. So obviously our company page, which lists all our jobs, our LinkedIn account. Then we have a couple of 4 other kind of avenues really at the time. So job boards is where you can post it, where a company can post a job and it shows up on a platform with other jobs. There's 2 kinds there. The first one, I put We Work Remotely because you guys, We Work Remotely are our exclusive remote first partners. Absolutely. No, why not? Because you guys are the best in the industry. But then you have scraper sites like Indeed and other places what actually, go and scrape either the job board, the We Work Remotely site, or our own internal job board, and they will show up there as well. Then for some of our roles, we use agencies. And I've listed a couple here that we use specifically for developers. And the agencies can specialize in different things. So for example, Manara, I know posts jobs also on We Work Remotely, but they specialize in Palestinian and Arab women in tech specifically.
Love it.
So they're a very niche EDI kind of agency. Then we have university and college websites for any of our intern positions or junior positions. We post there as well. And then, of course, various groups and forums that we are a part of, like developer forums and developer groups and so forth. We will list jobs there as well. So really and truly, if you want to apply for a job, any of these all come back to the job board.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back into our ATS. So you don't have to worry about which one you're using to apply to a company. Generally, all of them will come back, into the ATS at some point.
Yeah. And I think this also, it's important to know what you want from a job so that you can look for jobs that align with yourself. So for example, if you're looking for something remote first, or that has like a super big remote culture, then maybe a job board like We Work Remotely is the way to go, right? But for example, this agency you mentioned, right? If you're a woman in tech, for example, then maybe you might want to go to one of these very specific job boards or agencies to look for a job.
Yeah, you're right. It really depends on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of helps determine what is the best way for you to look. If you're specifically looking for a remote job, I would say starting off with We Work Remotely is probably your best bet, because there's a lot of I want to say really fantastic, I would say remote leaders, remote first leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So these companies, they live on We Work Remotely. So if you want to really understand remote culture and remote jobs and everything remote, you can find them on We Work Remotely, and find those companies living there.
Thank you for the compliments. No, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Like obviously, we've been around for a long time. So of course, a lot of companies that are remote have been posting for a long time here. So a lot of the companies that post here have that pre-COVID remoteness. So they know what they're doing and they know the processes, they know everything. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want and what you need in a job.
Yeah, and one thing to your point just now, one thing I will say is that many companies, even now after COVID, they have gone remote. They're still in the process of learning and figuring things out. So companies are always changing. Even some of the people who have more established processes within their or systems within their organization, they're still improving things.
Yeah.
So when you come into a company like today, that company will evolve really rapidly in the next year, just because of the time that we're living in, the technology that's coming out, the focuses on EDI, all of these things really shift and shape how a company grows, and how fast it can achieve certain things and what the company prioritizes. Cool. So let's talk about some more evolving things. Hey, we're Sherpa and we're hiring. Yeah, we got a couple of roles listed for our engineering team, as you can see here. As I mentioned before, we're TypeScript, Node.js. We also use Angular. But yeah, come to our booth throughout the rest of the job fair. Come to our website, joinsherpa.com. Check us out and come. If any of these jobs are of interest, feel free to apply. We also have jobs that are not specific to engineering. Some are in the sales and the support realm, and on our operations team. So we are growing fast. We have a lot of opportunities available. So yeah, just definitely come through and hit us up. Yes. And would be very happy to meet anybody that coming out of this job fair.
Tell us a bit about the culture at Sherpa and what is it like to work there?
Ooh, I would say Sherpa is a fast-paced tech startup. So it's a lot of go. We have a lot of things to achieve, and we are ambitious in our growth.
What about
does that help?
Yeah,
I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, no, it helps. What about the remoteness?
Yeah, remote at Sherpa. We are a remote first company. We do have teammates all throughout the world. However, we do have an office in Toronto as well, which is fantastic for people like me. I've been working remote for 5 years. I haven't really seen colleagues other than my 3 kids for long times. So it's really nice to have adult human interaction in a professional setting. And I enjoy that aspect, being able to go into the city. I've only gone in maybe twice so far, but it's there if I want it. And then of course we do things like the team retreats, so that people who are not within the GTA, not within the Toronto region, can actually get face-to-face time with their peers and colleagues and so forth. We do a lot of virtual events, team building events. We have different clubs. There's a cooking class. So I think once a month on a Monday, for lunch, they all get together and, one person takes the lead and they all have these ingredients and they cook things together. They eat together. Yeah, we have social hours. It's like a lot of the remote first kind of stuff like that. But I think where we really shine is in how much we actually care for the employees. And this is evident by the benefits and the perks, right? So like, beyond above industry compensation, we offer, unlimited health and wellness days and unlimited vacation days.
Nice.
So basically, if you need time to recharge, especially because of COVID and like, all of these things, you don't have to worry about
that is happening.
It's crazy. The world is just crazy. And you need companies to help understand that, hey, people are struggling. And give them the freedom and the flexibility to take time if they need time, treat them like adults, So that's huge. We offer also benefits day one for any employee, even if you're in Canada or if you're not in Canada, which is super critical. So you have that peace of mind, right? We offer home build out office so that you have a budget to build out your home office such that it can accommodate your own work style. And it's a large budget and you can do with it as you please. There's no, you have to buy a computer, or you have to buy a monitor, or you can just whatever you want. So there is that as well. We also emphasize learning and development, and we encourage internal growth. So rather than hiring, external leaders, we try and build up our team to achieve those positions later on. So there's a focus on that as well. And like I said, many companies are still evolving, and I'm not saying that we're the best company by any means. We're definitely still learning, and we're definitely still improving our systems, our people ops systems, and working towards that goal of achieving a really good employee satisfaction, employee engagement score where everyone is happy. I think a testament to the culture that we have is that since its inception in 2015, I think only 2 people have ever left Sherpa.
Wow.
That's
a big accomplishment. Cool. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty cool.
Totally is. Well, so everyone that's watching these, just go to Sherpa's booth, check out the job openings they have, ask them questions if you want. And I've worked with Asim, so I know he's awesome, and I think you will enjoy your time at Sherpa.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Justine, and thanks again for having us, having Sherpa join this job fair. Super exciting to be a part of the remote first movement. To all of the job applicants and the job seekers out there, best of luck in your job hunt, your job search. If myself or Sherpa can help in any way, please, as Justine mentioned, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a discussion at any point.
Yeah, and if anyone has any question, feel free to go to the chat. We will be there. You can ask your questions. You can interact with Asim, or actually not with Asim, but with people from his team.
Yeah, we'll get some engineering managers, some other managers to kind of join the conversation, so that you can ask very specific questions about teams, tech stacks, and really have a non-fluffy, non-recruiter, what's it like to work at Sherpa?
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much, Asim. It was amazing. I know a lot of people will find it super valuable. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, take care, everyone.